Hello everyone, today I'll be actually showing you how to read a simple standard ruler. This is something that you can learn very quickly, and just like anything, it might be a little confusing at first, but as you practice, you will be able to read this in no time. So each standard ruler just goes to 12 inches. Now you're going to learn exactly what an inch is. I wanted to create this so anyone who doesn't know how to read a ruler can use it and can craft and make fun stuff. All right, so let's zoom in right here and we'll just start talking about the inches. Now in this shot, you won't be able to see the whole ruler, but that doesn't matter much right now. We're just gonna understand the 1 inch. So if I were to start here, this is our 0. Anytime we measure anything, we start from the 0 mark and measure this way. So if I wanted to measure this white paper underneath me, I would line up that 0 mark at the edge of the paper and then find out how long it is. But for now, we're gonna start right here and we're gonna break down the 1 inch. Now let's go from this distance to here. This equals 1 inch. Now this little quotation here just indicates that it's an inch. That's all that means. Now that's 1 inch. Now if I were to pull down here, start another one. If I measured from the 0 all the way to the 2 inch, yep, that's 2 inches. And same thing here. If I measured from the 0 all the way to the 3, that's 3 inches. And we can keep going all the way to the 12. But let's break down the 1 inch a bit more. Every single inch is made up of the same measurements. Now they can be divided in different ways. The easiest way is starting from the 0, going to the 1, and that just equals 1 inch, just like before. But this 1 inch is made up of all of these lines in there, and they're actually super easy. You can divide it in half, like that. Or you could divide it in quarters. Or you can divide it in eighths. Right? So I have 4 pieces here. And then I have 8 pieces here. And even smaller, you can divide it into sixteenths. So 16 little pieces make up this 1 inch. See how I'm doing that? There's 16 little pieces that equal still 1 inch. All of these equal 1 inch still. But with inside that 1 inch, there's 8 little pieces. Here, or 16, or 4, or just 2. Now let's go back to the 1 inch and just look at the halves. So here's 1 inch again. Let's just divide it in half. Now if we come down here, we'll realize that 2 halves are inside of 1 inch. You see this? So here's a half, which is part of that whole. So a 1/2 inch distance looks like this. 1, and then we do a sideways slash and a 2. Some people like to do the percentages, which is a 0.50. I like to do this one. So this is a half of a distance right there. Half of an inch. So 2 halves make a whole. You see how you could divide that in half? Perfect, let's do the quarters. So if I took my 1 inch, look how many little lumps fit inside. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I could divide it into 4 parts. So these are quarters, which look like this. So here's a quarter distance. It's really small, just a tiny one. So let's look at it again. Here's a 1 inch distance. Here's a 1/2 inch distance. Here's a 1/4 inch distance. And an 1/8 of a distance. And a 16th. It just keeps getting in half of itself. So this would be 1 inch. This one would be 1/2 of an inch. This one would be 1/4 of an inch. This one, 1/8. And then this one, 1/16. And we always put our little dash marks like that. So here's our 1 inch. Here's our 1/2 inch. Here's the quarter. Here's the 8th. And then the 16th. Super easy. And it's just kind of like a piece of pie. Let's say this whole circle equals 1 inch. Now if we were to divide that pie in half, now we have 2 pieces, which is 2 halves. Then we wanted to divide it into quarters, which are 4 pieces. Now you have 4. If you divided it again, we'd have a total of 8 slices of pie. Then if you divided it again, we would have 16 slices. And that's the limit right there. 16 pieces. So 16 tiny little pieces make up every single inch. 16 little pieces, or 8 little pieces, 4 little pieces, or 2. Or just one big pie all to yourself. So the best way to put this into practice of understanding this is actually just by testing yourself, right? So what if I drew a line and I land up kind of pretty much anywhere, right? I go, okay, how long is this line? Let me go ahead and measure it. Well, I already know that I'm beyond the 4 inches, right? So here's 4 inches. I'm at 4, but now I'm how far away from the 4, right? I'm at 4 and a half. So let's talk about the halves and how to measure that. At every inch, you're going to see the longest line. Every single inch has the longest line. And every half inch has the second longest line. So this little line is going to be slightly shorter than that guy. Slightly shorter, right? He's not as long. Then in half of those, a little bit smaller of a line is going to be halving the halves. A little bit smaller. And that continues. Let's go half of a quarter, which is an eighth. And the lines get a little shorter, just like they do on the ruler. And if you get half of an eighth, that's a 16th, which goes even smaller, which is right in between. See how that works? And so on. So that's how you'll measure. Now you're probably thinking, okay, how do I read the quarters? The quarters are super easy. Kind of like that pie graph I was just showing you. So if I have a quarter of an inch, that's 1 quarter. But we never say 2 quarters. We just say half, right? So the 2 quarters come together and we just call it a half. We don't even call it 2 quarters. We just call it half. So it goes 1 quarter, half an inch, 3 quarters, 1 inch. We don't say 4 quarters because that's just saying a 4 of a 4, which equals a whole, basically. So that's why we don't do that. So we go quarter of an inch, which is this little chunk, and then half an inch, which is this other chunk, and 3 quarters of an inch, which is just 3 out of the 4 spaces that make up the 1. There are 4 quarters that fit inside of this 1, right? So now we go all the way to the 1 inch, and now we're just going to call it what it is. We're just going to call this 1 inch. Same thing here. If I jumped all the way to the 2, and I wanted to go, you know what? I'm going to go 2 and a quarter. That would be 2 and 1 quarter. Because we only did 1 chunk of the next inch. We're eating into the 3-inch mark, but we're not at the 3. So we're 2 and 1 quarter. What if I did 2 and a half? Well, that's going to look like this. 2 and a half. Because now I'm eating into the half-inch portion of the 3. Now what if I went 2 and 3 quarters? That's going to look like this. 2 and 3 quarters. It's super easy. So we go 1 quarter, half, 3 quarters, 1. So here's our quarters. Okay, what if I wanted to go 4 and 3 quarters? Where would that be? I would find the 4 right here, and then I would count my quarters. 4, 1, 2, 3. You could do it that way too. So this measures 4 3/4. If I wanted to go 1 1/4, what if I just wanted to do 1 1/4? 1 1/4. Right there. So that's 1 inch plus 1/4, which looks like this. Now the next quarter is 1 3/4, right? So 1, and then you count 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 3/4 for our quarter marks. There's only going to be a 1 and a 3. So all the measurements are the same. The inches just change. It could be 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. And then the quarters come in and they all look like this. 1 1/4 or 3 1/4. All these little spaces right here. All of these little spaces right here are quarters of an inch. All these little guys. These are all quarters. And there's only 4 of these little chunks inside of 1 inch. Now there's 8 of these little guys inside of 1 inch. Just like we said earlier. Let's go ahead and do that. Before we do that, let's just do 1/4. Here it is. Okay, that's 1/4. And 3/4. What if it wasn't even an inch? What if you just measured something that was only 3/4 of an inch? Then that's what it would look like. Perfect. It's not quite an inch. If something wasn't an inch, it would only be 3/4 of an inch. Just like that. Now let's talk about the eighths. Now since there's 8 of them inside of an inch, we can divide them into 8 parts like we did before. So these little lumps, there's going to be 8 of them. And then after I draw my 8th one, I'm at the inch mark now. And that continues. 8 little chunks each inch. 8 of them inside of here. You take any inch and they're going to have 8 of those little guys inside of them. So what if I measured 1 1/8? What would that look like? Well, I'm going to go to the 1 and then I'm going to add an 1/8. See that? And that looks like this. 1 1/8. Now what if I wanted to go 1 3/8? Because we're not going to say 1 2/8. We just say 1/4. Remember we learned the 1/4 mark? So let's go 1 3/8. What does that look like? I'm going to go to the 1, then I'm going to jump 1, 2, 3. 1 3/8. That's what that looks like. 1 3/8. Now the next eighth is the 1/2 inch mark. So we're not going to say 1 4/8. We're just going to say 1 1/2. So we're going to skip that one. Let's go to the next eighth. What if I wanted to do 1 5/8? Let's go to the 1 inch like we did before and jump over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 1 5/8. How easy. Because we only did 5/8 with inside of that inch mark. Now there's only one more eighth that we count. It's the 7/8. Okay, so let's go 1 7/8. 1 all the way. And let's count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right there. 1 7/8. See, this is 1 7 of the eighths. So that looks like this. There's 7 of these little eighths and a 1 inch. So that is this distance plus this distance. 1 7/8. Now once we add one more, that would complete it, right? So it would make us go to the 2. And we'll just call that 2 inches. We don't need to call that 1 8/8. Now you'll notice each one of these are odd numbers. So that is a 7, a 5, a 3, and a 1. So when you're working with eighths, your pieces will be odd numbers. 1, 3, 5, and 7. And they're always out of 8 because we're dealing with the eighths. Easy. See how we did that? So now you think you're ready for 16ths? Then you can always play the video back and review it again. So let's do 1 1/16. So let's find our 1 inch and then jump over a 16th. Really tiny. Really tiny, guys. See? 1 plus 1/16. That looks like this, 1 and 1/16. Because there's 16 tiny lines within an inch. Now we only counted 1 out of those 16. You see how that 16th of an inch is going towards the 2? He's not quite a complete 2-inch yet. So that's why it's only 1 and 1/16. So let's go again. Let's go 1 and 3/16. Again, we're doing odd numbers because if we get to that 1/8, it's just called 1 and 1/8, not 1 and 2/16. So let's go 1 and 3/16. It looks like this, 1 plus 3/16. 1, 2, 3. 3 tiny little marks right there. So that looks like this, 1 and 3/16. See the odd numbers again? Let's go 1 and, you guessed it, what's the next odd number after 3? 5. 1 and 5/16. Let's do it. I'm going to go all the way to the 1, and then I'm going to start counting my 16ths up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, because we skipped that quarter, otherwise that would have just been 1 and 1/4. But instead, we're 1/16 beyond that quarter mark. So now that makes us 1 and 5/16. Again, another odd number. And you guessed it, let's go. What's the next odd number from 5? 7. So let's go 1 and count 7/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's okay if at first you need to count when you're measuring something. Sometimes I like to do that. Until you get really good, you can just know. But right now, that's 1 and 7/16. Look how easy. Now the next one from that odd number is a 9. So you could probably guess already what this next composition is going to be. 1 and 9/16. So let's do it. 1, and then let's count 9 16 marks. Okay? We call them 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now there's 9 little 16th pieces after this 1. So that measurement is 1 and 9/16. And we're almost finished. Look, what's the next odd number? 11. So 1 and 11/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 1 and 11/16. These are all 1s. I know my 1s look a little funny. Okay? Wow. Now 13/16 is next. So I'm going to go 1 and I'm going to count 13 little tiny guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1 and 13/16. Okay, because we just counted 13 out of a total of 16. Now there's one more left, and you probably guessed it. The next odd number from 13 is 15. So 1 and 15/16. Can you believe it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So now that's 1 and 15/16. Can you believe it? That's only 1/16 less than getting to the next inch. There's 1 and 15/16, which is only 1 more 16th away from just being the next inch over. Because we're not going to write 1 and 16/16. We're just going to write the full inch number, which is 2. You see how the 16ths work? So now let's just think of a random thing to measure. Okay, let's measure this piece of paper. I'm going to measure it all the way across, starting my 0 at the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to glance over here, and I'm going to say, whoa, I'm at the 8, right? So I'm at 8 inches right here. Now what am I going to count? Looks like I'm ending up on a 16th mark. Then I'm going to go 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right at the edge of that paper, from edge to edge. This paper measures 8 and 9/16. So that looks like this. 8, smaller number here, 9/16. Usually our whole number, our big inch, he's a lot bigger. And then these other two are divided by this line here. Then I put the inch mark just right there. So this paper across is 8 9/16 of an inch. Okay, let's measure something else. Let me just draw some random line. Okay, I'm not even gonna think about it. Just a random little line. What is it gonna measure? And you can do this at home too. So I'm gonna make a random line, then I'm gonna line up my 0 mark at the edge of this subject. And I'm gonna go, looks like I'm landing on an 1/8 mark. Let's go to my 6. I already know it's 6 inches, but 6 what? 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. So that's gonna look like this, 6 and 5/8. Okay, that was easy. Let's get a trickier one. Just gonna draw a random line, not even gonna think about it. All right, what is this? Let's start at the 0. Measure our line. I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of room here. That way I can see where I'm at. And wow, that's easy. This is measuring 7 and 3/16. Because I found my 7. You see, I'm drawing this line. You don't have to do this. I found my 7, and now I'm gonna hop over 3 little spaces. 1, 2, 3. This ended up being 7 inches plus 3/16 of an inch. So 7 and 3/16. That's how we read it. Easy, isn't it? So anytime you have something you're measuring, you just start with the 0 mark at the edge of it, and then you count this way. This paper is 11. So this is usually a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet, but sometimes, depending on who makes it, you might even have an 8 9/16 by 11 piece of paper. Little did you know, they gave you an extra little sliver. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want a little bit more in depth, let me know. I love to craft, and I use the standard ruler, and it helps me make all different kinds of projects, and it's so much fun. If you want to learn this ruler and you put in the practice and the time, you will definitely get it. Just remember, everything's made up of the same thing. So if I ended up only teaching you just what's inside 1 inch, well, I also taught you what was inside every single inch, because every inch is the same as each other. Let's leave you off on one last little measurement here. I'm going to draw a random little line here. I'm going to pull my ruler down just a little bit so I can work with it a little bit easier. And look at this. It looks like I know I'm already at the 5, right? So I'm going to be at 5 inches. I know I'm at the 5-inch mark. But 5 plus what? It looks like I have a 16th mark that I landed on. So I'm going to go ahead and count my 16ths until I get good at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 5 and 11/16. Now that's easy as pie. So just go at home and maybe test yourself to measure different sizes. And get out your little ruler and just measure whatever side you want. This one's ending up on 1 3/4. You see? And you could just do this at home and cut them out any different size. This one's about 2 5/8. The more you do it, the better you get. You can do absolutely anything you put your mind to. Look at us. 3 inches exactly. He doesn't have any 16ths or 1/8 or quarters. This one's 3 1/8. See how that works? You can do this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.